Likkutei Torah, Drushim for Rosh Hashana, page 112, second column, Eis Gimel. The Alter Rebbe was explaining that Malchus is an awakening from below to accept the king, and then the king is able to reveal himself from above. And the same thing, now he's going to explain that that's the whole concept of Shofars. But in order for Hashem to be Melech, we need to coronate him, which has to come Umato L'mayla. So he says, V'hinei kol hamshachas einig v'ratzon elyon. All of these bringing down of the desire, the pleasure, and the will of Hashem. But midas hamelucha, in the attribute of Hashem being the king. Mika has to come mimaka kol hatanugim, from the sword, like he said before. In order to awaken a pleasure, you have to go to the source of pleasure to be able to reveal it. He says that is all accomplished Aydei Shofar shel ayil. Only with a shofar that's from a ram. What's the connection shofar from a ram to this level what we're talking here? So he says, well, Inyan Dinyan is like this. Kinei Shadish Nefesh Habamis. Nefesh Habehema, the source of the Nefesh Habamis, is Mebchenes Pnei Aryeh Pnei Shur. Is come the Merkava, right? The Aryeh, the lion, and the ox. Shosh Shemechinas Behemis Ba'arei Olev Shemechinas Satayil. The source of the lion and the ox of the Merkava, he says, comes from the world of Teil. So it's a very lofty level. Then it comes into the Merkava, and that becomes the source of the Nefesh Habamis. V'hinei Yadua Shepnei Shor is the Teil, because the revelations of Teil. There are a lot. There's an abundance of revelation and very powerful. The Kalim were not able to tolerate and handle the revelation. Therefore the Kalim broke. And where did they fall down to? Into the world of Bria. Because Atzilus is the world of Tikkun. But the higher thing, the lower down it fell. So therefore, Tehu, the sparks of Tehu initially fell into the world of Bria. That's the Merkava, the Shor, the Merkava that Yechezkel saw was in the world of Bria. The Hein and the Merkava, the Pnei Ayu, Pnei Shor. Therefore, Teva Behema. Therefore, the nature of an animal is Bittul Gadol Yesimi Adam. Animals have greater bittul than people do. Why? Because they're completely dictated by instinct. There's no free choice to think that I come before you. Therefore, I mean, as everybody knows, that they say a dog is super devoted to the master more than the kids are. That's why people like dogs better than kids. They don't talk back. And then from Bria it comes down here. Because why is it more bittul? Because a person has das in the world of tikkun. It's lower than seichel, so lower than seichel means it's bottom. Because it's higher than the level of das in the world of elam. Therefore, what do? We take a shofar of an animal. The animal comes from the Merkava, which comes from the world of Teil, which is higher than the world of Tikkun. Therefore, we take the shofar of a behema. That has more level of bittul, to awaken the level of bittul higher than das. Okay, so he says like this. Because you need to awaken the level of bittul to Hashem, because again, what's the coronation of the king? That the king should want to be king is when you have bittul. When you have bittul, then the king wants to be king. If you're not bottled to the king, then you're a dictator. But that's kingdom means a nation is subjugated, they subjugate themselves to the king. So you have to awaken, like you said in the previous chapter, that you have to awaken a level of bittul from all the way up there. He said that's the level of shofar. You take a behema that has more bittul than a person because it comes from Elam Matehu, and you blow it. And what do you blow? Kel Poshet, a simplistic voice. It doesn't even come into words yet. The sound of a shofar is a simplistic, there's no letters yet. What does that mean? It comes from pnimis nukudas halev. It comes from the essence of the heart. It doesn't even come into letters. In other words, like this. The uniqueness of a cry versus verbalizing it, a cry is above letters. Why do you cry? Because you cannot articulate what your problem is. That's why kids cry a lot. Why? Because they don't have the ability to express what's bothering them. So letters already is the way the bittul comes into formation of limited letters. Aleph, Beis, Gimel. The cry comes from a level higher than that. Comes from the essence of the heart. Because the source of letters comes from Chachma. Because in order to speak words, a newborn could cry, but he needs to be a year or two, whatever, until they're able to speak. Because they have to have a certain level of Chachma, how to pronounce the letters. And this air that comes from the simplistic cry of the shofar, which is higher than Chachma. A cry is higher than Chachma. Therefore, in order to awaken the level of Elokus, which is all the way up there, the bittul Elokus, that it should want to be our king, we have to awaken a level of total bittul. And that level of total bittul is from an animal which comes from the world of Teil, which is bittul, and therefore it comes from the sound, the simplistic sound of a shofar that's not in words yet. Ubir is that explained as Sinei Yaduam, Sheyesh Beimim in a curl. There's two types of sounds. One is Nika Kol Dibur, one is speech. Hayetz Me'avel Alev that comes from the air of the heart. Achim Mechinis Chitzenis Alev, it's only from the external level of the heart, which is the level of midas of the heart that comes from the Chochmah Bina Ad Lamatim and Adas, it comes lower. Shadas Mamshech HaSeichel Shameach Alalev, because then the intellect of the head formulates the letters. So there's one type of sound which comes out in words. But Avo Bechinis Kol Pashut. But then there's a second level of sound, a cry. That cry comes from a deeper level that cannot be formulated or restricted or limited into letters. The Rebbe once spoke about a niggin. In fact, it was about the song Protestation Yerushalayim. They sang a niggin, that niggin, and then the Rebbe was speaking about Protestation Yerushalayim, that when Mashiach comes, Yerushalayim is going to be open. Now there's a wall around you. It's going to be open, spread itself out. So the Rebbe spoke then that the Rebbe told him to put that niggin to those words. That one. And the Rebbe explained that there's an advantage of a nigun without words versus a nigun with words. And each one has an advantage over the next. If you notice, by deep Chassidic songs, soul songs, there's no words. It's just a nigun. Why? Because it's a level that cannot be limited in words. It's like Dr. Rebbe said, just like the mouth is the pen of the mind, the nigun song is the pen of the heart. It's the expression of the heart, based on the song you're singing. So the concept of a song, a nigun without words, is coming from a very, very deep level. The mile of words, it comes into a limited form. So you have both things together. So he says there's a sound that comes from words, but that already is involved in seichel. Seichel has to formulate the words. But then you have a cry, the kol pashut, that comes from the depth of the heart, shulamaylim and seichel, which is higher than seichel. Lias pnimis aratzin shebilti mugbal b'seichel. It's not limited in seichel. Therefore, it's a simplistic voice, like tzaka pisemis, a sudden scream. that comes in the Kudus Emek Alev, comes from the depth of the heart. Then the essence of the nefesh is affected, like the pasuk says, Tzoak libam al Hashem. Their heart cried out to Hashem. Is even higher than Chacham. So that's what the Rebbe is saying, that in order to awaken this ultimate level of tainug that Hashem should want and have the pleasure of being king, you have to awaken that level from a level higher than that. So therefore, how do you awaken that level? You have to blow shofar from an animal, which is bittul, and then you blow the kol pashut, which is higher than seichel, higher than letters, higher than any intellectual thing. It comes from the essence. And those essence of the sound of the shofar through the animal, which is bittul, you awaken that level of elokus, which is super high. When Russia was fighting with Napoleon, so there was a big fight between Rabbi Mezhebush and Alter Rebbe, who should win. The Alter Rebbe wanted Russia should win, because then it would be better spiritual for the Jews. And the other Gedolim, a lot of them wanted Napoleon to win, because then it would be better physically for the Jews. And it came down, bottom line, it came down to who's going to blow shofar first in Rosh Hashana. Who's going to blow Rosh Hashana, shofar first in Rosh Hashana? So the Baruch Mezhebush got up, as soon as day broke, he quickly davened, and he blew shofar. The Alter Rebbe got up and blew shofar right away, before davening. He just blew the shofar. But you see, these spiritual things, the depth of shofar has a tremendous revelation of what's going on up there. It's not stam, take a boo, it's very deep. Right. Huh? Why not? If you blow shofar, you make a bracha on Shechiyanu, why not?
Even though before davening, you had to say.
Who says shofar has to be shofar the pros in the middle of davening? Somebody heard shofar before davening and not during davening.
Under Shofar, it's a bracha. You have to say the bracha first, no?
Yeah, so he made the bracha on shofar and blew shofar.
Did you see more brachas?
The Alter Rebbe didn't blow shofar before. The Alter Rebbe did not know how to blow shofar.
So why did he do it?
He got something, not the Alter Rebbe, he got somebody to blow for it. There's a says, the Rebbe brings down in the Sichos, that in fact, when the Alter Rebbe came to Mizrich, the Mizrich, the Maggid asked the Alter Rebbe to blow shofar for him on Rosh Hashana. So the Alter Rebbe said, on the condition that you teach me all the Kabbalistic meanings of shofar. So the Maggid did. Afterwards, after the Alter Rebbe learned all the Kabbalistic things of shofar, the Alter Rebbe said, sorry, I don't know how to blow. So, in fact, I think one of the things the Alter Rebbe said, man, genug talk. Anyway, so the Rebbe explains why did the Alter Rebbe not know how to blow shofar. So the Rebbe explains, because when do you learn how to blow shofar? When you're a kid. When you're a kid, you take a shofar, that's how you learn how to blow shofar. The Alter Rebbe was never a child. So he never knew how to, he never blew shofar. So it said the Alter Rebbe blew shofar, it didn't mean he blew shofar. The Alter Rebbe didn't blow shofar. It meant that the Alter Rebbe got somebody to blow shofar for him.
Can you blow shofar before morning brachas?
Can you blow your nose?
As the mitzvah of the day and all that. Say the bracha.
Well, you don't say brachas before. You don't say bracha before you say brachas and all that. Okay, Vayidei should take and beit kir shel mitzvah. Therefore, when you're blowing it, the kir of mitzvah. Bekol pashut berusa deliba, with a simplistic voice. Shebachin is l'mayla min adas, which is higher than das. Or l'mayla mechinas asis, and above the level of asis. In other words, like it says, behema elo das. So simply means there's no das. But in spiritually, it's because a behema comes from a level higher than das. So therefore, you take the ramah, the shofar of an ayol, and then you blow the kol pashut. So what happens? It awakens from above keser shelamayla mi'achachma, the keser higher than das. V'nim b'chinas melucha, and it awakens the pleasure of Hashem to be king. Le'es mesanig mi bittul hayesh, to have pleasure from the subjugation of the people, the am which is bottled to the king. L'chein teikim b'shofar shetzidei echad kotzim. Therefore, halachically, you have the narrow part of the shofar, and then you have the wide part of the shofar. So halacha says, what happens if somebody has a big mouth, literally, and they blow from the wide side of the shofar? So it says in Gemara, you're not yotze the mitzvah. You're not fulfilling it. Why? Because the pasuk says, min ha-meitzar karasi yudkei, from the narrowness, from the oppression, you have to call out, anoni b'merchav Hashem shedant in the broad. So therefore, the halacha is you have to blow from the narrow. And he said, like it says in the pasuk, karasi yudkei, anoni b'merchav yudkei. Hainu, tkiya rishayna, the first tkiya. Shamshach or shemamo ma'ila lamata, it's higher to lower. Shemesaning mi bittul hayesh now. That has the level of bit. Amnam, that's the first tkiya. But amnam tkiya achreina is halo mimata lamayla. The second, in other words, you blow, according to halacha, biblically, you have to blow tkiya, teruah, tkiya. Okay? That's the biblical halacha. Tkiya, teruah, tkiya. If it says teruah 3 times, so you blow it 3 times. But we learn from Yegel with Shofar the whole thing, that you blow tkiya, teruah, tkiya. The only problem is, as it says in Shulchan from the extension of Golus, people forgot what teruah is. Since one of 3 options, it could be either what we call teruah, or what we call shvarim, or both together. In other words, the Gemara says, we don't know if it's like a child crying, or it's a sick person groaning, moaning. So a sick person, when they kvetch, they say, you ever listen to kids kvetch? That's the shvarim. Or a kid cries, right, that's the teruah. Or is it both together? So because we don't know which one it is, so we blow all sets. Tkiya, shvarim, teruah, tkiya 3 times, tkiya, shvarim, tkiya 3 times, tkiya, teruah, tkiya 3 times. But biblically, what's the mitzvah? The Alter Rebbe is saying you have tkiya and teruah and tkiya. So the first tkiya, he says that's the level mimata lamayla. That's blowing, awakening from below. And then he says tkiya achrein is the second tkiya, is Allah mimata lamayla. Is elevation from lower to higher. How? By blowing in between the shvarim teruah, which is smell deicha, which is the left side pushing away, and awakening the big mercy from above. Huh? Tkiyat Gedela is Tkiyat Gedela. I mean, what's the... Alpidin, if you didn't blow Tkiyat Gedela, you do blow Tkiyat also Yetzer. Yeah. So he says, Ukamesh Kosov, the Kavanas Tkiyat Shvat, that Tkiyat Vashvam, Levato Yetzahara. Okay, the Rebbe is explaining this whole Inyan of Shofar is the Shofar is to awaken the Gili from above, and then it brings down the revelation from above. By having the Shvarim Teruah, which is pushing away the evil, that's why, I mean, by us, we blow. But when the Rabbi blew, it was an Aveda. It was accomplishing Binyan HaMalchus in the world. It wasn't the Rebbe take a shayla. Here's by the Rebbe took a very long time. That's the actual blowing. Generally speaking, it took a very long time. It's not because he didn't know how to blow. They're inyanim, spiritual inyanim. What he was accomplishing, we take a and that's it, we're done. We go home. But by the Rebbeim, they actually accomplished Binyan HaMalchus. So you had to fight the Shvarim, the Torah, like he says here, to get away of the evil forces and all these things, and that's why it's a big thing, Tkiyas.
It took a long time because the notes were longer, or it had more spaces, or it took longer time?
A lot of times it didn't go so fast.
It was sweet.
It didn't go so fast. But it's a different, not, when the Rebbe blew Shofar, they say for the Rebbetzin or whatever, it went chick-chack, it blew. But the Kir Shofar, especially on the first day, it happened both days, but especially on the first day, it's a big thing going on.
They say he always bled.
Used to bleed. The handkerchief that he wiped his mouth with had blood on it. Okay. Okay. Then the brackets. Where do the brackets end here? Oh. Okay. Next page. Nun Zayin, about 12 lines on the top. V'nei v'ur b'Priyei Chaim. It's explained in Priyei Chaim. Shesei da shefu bebina. That the soul of Shofar, the secret of Shofar, the concept of Shofar is bina. Ki slap shesumakim gilui taina go bebina kaneda. So it's where is the ultimate revelation of that level of tainug? It says in Kabbalah that is a right in the level of bina. Ki is galus atik is in bebina. Therefore, it's the level of Olam Haba. It's the level of understanding. It is Galus Atainuk. And the ultimate level of enjoyment is when you understand something. When you understand something, you enjoy it much more than when you don't understand it. Obviously, right? So Tainug, why? Because Tainug is revealed more in Bina than in the level of Chochmah. The person got a new brainstorm. He says, when the depth of Tainug, he says, in other words, like this. It starts in Chochmah. Like the Gemara says, Rabbi found a new Braisi he never heard of before, Salvu Panav, his face lit up. But that's only in Chochmah. When you have Bina, that's the revelation of Tainuk. When he understands the depth of it. The same thing, Kamerik, in Lamala Tainuk is in Chochmah, which is called Eden, which is Etzem David HaMusik. Amnam. Shamu Bahelim in Chochmah, it's the level of concealment. Ve'ika is Galusik Shenimshu Bechinas Bina, which is Asaga V'Ispashu Eida V'Reich, which is when you understand it. Therefore, Shofar is also the level of Bina. She is Galus HaTainuk, that comes through Shofar is Bina, and then it gets to speech, which is the level of Malchut B'Dvar Hashem Shemayim Nasa. That's why Bina is Hey and speech is Hey, because they're all interconnected. So he says like this. Shofar is awakening a level of Tainug above everything. So therefore you need from Behema, you need the level of Shofar, the cry, the simplistic cry. That level of Shofar, that's the first Tkiya that awakens the Tainug from above. And then when you break the evil, this is the level from below up. You have the Bittul, that's the first Tkiya, the complete level of Bittul. Then you break the evil forces in Shvarim Teruah, and then you do the second Tekiyah, which is the revelation from above. Actually being Mamshech Elukus down, that now he wants to be the king. And that level of pleasure that Hashem enjoys being king, that's in the level of Bina. Because the revelation of Tainug is in Bina. Okay, so he says now, which is above Seichel, okay. Now he says in Dalid, because the beginning of the Maamar was about to understand why we don't blow Shofar on Shabbos, right, of Rosh Hashana. So he says, so he's explaining, he said, in order to understand why we don't blow Shofar on Shabbos, we need to understand what Shofar is. So he explained his whole 2.5 pages, what Shofar is all about. So he says, now will be understood, why Tkiyah Shofar doesn't push off Shabbos. As he's going to explain, because in essence, Shabbos accomplishes that level that Shofar does. But nevertheless, as we discussed the other day in between Mincha Ma'ariv, there's different levels of Shofar. So therefore, the Mikdash, the Beis HaMikdash, they did blow on Shabbos. Why? Because the Shofar of the Beis HaMikdash was higher than the level what Shabbos could accomplish. So therefore, in the Mikdash, they blew. He says, why? He says, Ki inyan Shabbos. What's the inyan of Shabbos? Ki vay Shabbos, Hashem rested. Vayechol Hashemayim ba'aretz. And it could simply mean they completed the heaven and earth. Vayechal Elokim b'yom hashvi. Hashem rested or finished the job on the seventh. Kamei al derech Moshe. A person sheshevis v'noch me'ez melachas haveda. Okay, when a person takes a break, he rests. Okay, in our world we rest even without having to work. We need vacation before we start working. But normally a person it works and then because when you're working, yeah, so you have to have your seichel involved in the job that you're doing to figure out how to do it. So you need your seichel and midas. And then la'ayim b'chol prat ha'machlov about tzchatmas with seichel. So therefore, what happens when you rest? The seichel becomes elevated. Okay, let me just explain this for a minute outside and then we'll do it tomorrow. When a person works, he gets tired. I'm not talking medically now. Let's talk according to Chassidus. Why does a person get tired? Because I took my strengths, my koiches, my seichel, my midas, my strength, and I put it into the object I'm working with. So now I don't have my koiches anymore because I gave it out. I put it into something else. So what does resting do? Resting is when you bring back the seichel, you bring back your koyach. So what happens? During the work, you put your koyach into the objects, so therefore you're tired because you don't have koyach anymore. You don't have koyach. Well, what happened to your koyach? You put it into the object that you made with your seichel, the midas and everything. So now you rest. You stop doing it. So what happens? So the seichel comes back and the koyachs come back. That's the concept of rest. So we'll see how it works by the Eibishter.